Hello, music lovers. My name is Carter, and welcome back to Recording Records. It's been an interesting 2025 for me, an interesting year, but there's also just been not a lot of great things for me to talk about. But man, these last 2 months has brought me so many good stuff to talk, so many good albums to talk about, and I'm highlighting today one of my favorites to come out of this time period. Let God Sort 'Em Out, Clipse's new album. What an album. Okay, I'm gonna briefly go over an overview of the album and then we'll get into it. But Let God Sort 'Em Out is the comeback album from brothers No Malice and Pusha T under their duo Clipse. It's produced by Pharrell Williams, who's worked on some of their work previously, and it is their first album since 2009. The two brothers had split in 2010 after No Malice went through a spiritual moment and professed to be a Christian, which came at odds with their branding and their music being known as coke rap, where they rapped about dealing cocaine. I'm sure you can see where him and his newfound Christian faith didn't match their duo Clipse's branding or music. I'm sure you can see how those things kind of collided, and so they split, but they finally came back, and this is their first album back together. This is an album that is somewhat alternative in sound and sort of like shows a contradiction between the two figures. Pusha T rapping about his luxurious coke rap lifestyle, and Malice showing off his reform and reflection now with a Christian faith. You'll see throughout this album references to Christian verses and stuff just thrown throughout it. And so I want to go and get to kind of the composition of this album and talk about the album itself. I want to first talk about the lyrics of the album. Sometimes the lyrics in this album are a bit uncreative or off-putting. The rhymes are a lot of times too obvious or strange. There's like the fact, like with how off-putting it can be, the word 9/11 is mentioned 3 different times in 3 different songs, or one time in 3 different songs. So it's mentioned 3 different times throughout the album, which is a bit strange. And there's lines like yellow diamonds look like pee-pee and dumb diddy dumb that if this weren't a good album, I could see the music critic world and the music world, music content creation world kind of making fun of some of these lyrics, because some of them are off-putting and strange, except the album is good, and we'll get into why in a second, to where it's not that big of a deal. The lyrics also at times feel such a product of their time. With Nas, there's a Nas feature where he says, cancel me, and, obviously reference to modern day cancel culture or whatever. Pusha T mentions Salt Bae in By the Grace of God. There's this is culturally inappropriate riddled throughout the album, where it's like, oh yeah, we're being daring and we're challenging cancel culture. We're being culturally inappropriate. Screw that woke culture. Screw that woke culture. It's it's a bit of a product of its time. Also, it mentions of like Luigi from Mario Bros. And the mention of Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, it's a product of its time, and it's very funny at times. Like there's lines like, "Can't wrap your head around that. You ain't Arab." Like a head wrap, a head covering. Or lines like in Tyler the Creator's feature when he says, "I got deaf and blind girl trying to see what it do." See what it do. They can't see because they're blind. Maybe not the most proper English, sophisticated poetry in this album, but it's fun and spontaneous, and it kind of has that feeling of like your best friend who can rap well, and they're freestyling, and they're taking all these elements of pop culture and they're just throwing it in there. It's humorous and personable. It feels like a real person's making it. So no, it's not the most serious thing in the world, but it can be when it wants to. When it wants to, it can be really poetic and meaningful. With a song, an opener like The Birds Don't Sing, which is so heartfelt. It's full of heartfelt, mature stories of their mother and father's death, as brothers. They went through this thing together, and they just lay it out on the track. It starts off with the dead mother who at a late age divorced their father, and then it gets into how this divorce and her death led to the father dying. Lines about Pusha T rapping about his mother being his compass, his guidance to life, and him, losing that, are so impactful. Talking about how his son, her grandson, won't remember her because she died when he was so young, or just so heartfelt and sad, and reminds me. It really relates to me well with so many of my people I see photographed around the house that are older, people that are older relatives that I don't really remember meeting, and so the thought of that is so sad and really cuts deep. And then we get the Mouse's verse in that song, which is so heartbreaking and real, detailing the story of how he figured out his father was dead, knocking on his father's door to no answer, walking into his father's house and seeing his father there dead in the kitchen, describing his father's weakness from the divorce from his wife and her death. It's so real. It's such a reminder of how amazing life can be, how important family is, but also how fast life can be taken from you and how terrible that can be. But Malice approaches it with so much strength and maturity, guided by his faith in the Lord. And it's so admirable. Maybe perhaps sometimes in this album, some songs it isn't, but on this song, his faith really is. And for them to make, Hell Hath No Fury, which is a lot about how they're unapologetically drug dealers, and then to now opening up an album with a song about their parents dying and how they're processing it and remaining true with hope and with life despite how it's been taken from them shows so much maturity and development. And it's approached with such like lines that just cut deep to the heart, cut deep to your core, with lines showing the type of man his father was, detailing how he was a father to a community who needed that kind of leadership, detailing him as a hard-working provider who loved his kids so dearly, expressing his love for his kids in his own phone password. How he manages to keep it together and stay mature while also detailing the amazing man he portrays his father to be. It's so moving, but also so sad, but yet so motivating. It's such a heartfelt, amazing track. And then we get John Legend with a who has a beautiful voice fit for a piano accompaniment with the piano keys. It's sonically like less a super stripped down cry about what's happened song like a Runaway, which starts with its infamous stripped down striking piano entrance, but more a monumental dedication to their loved ones with angelic sounds and snappy drum tracks that pull your engagement with catchiness while they deliver real emotion in their lyrics. It's so sonically majestic and amazing. Really the song of the year. It's that from the songs I've listened to from this year. It's that or some Gaga song or another off this track, maybe the title track. But what a beautiful track. And so when they really want to deliver real powerful lyrics, they do it at a level that will be remembered for a long time. That's truly legendary and generational. So yeah, maybe the lyrics are silly sometimes, but they're also so real when they want to be. And I do think they show so much who the people are. And by being so casual with some of the stuff they talk about, it does help me know who they are. If that's really the goal, is to show Pusha T talking about the coke rap lifestyle, and then Malice showing his reform and maturity. I can see sort of how they both want to emblemize themselves throughout the album and with their lyrics, and I can sort of relate and understand where they're coming from in really a kind of intriguing and novel way. This album also has great features. The Kendrick feature was pretty good, especially the second half of that Kendrick feature was fire. The Tyler feature was really funny and intriguing. And then the Nas feature is probably my favorite. I love that Nas feature. I started freaking out when I was hearing it for the first time. So yeah, just like a really great project. I'm going to get into kind of the flow here a bit. At times, it could use less parody in the beats, like change it up sometimes. Like it's just like the same drum track or instrumental, just like throughout the whole thing, and it like we could change this up more in the chorus or something to make it a bit different. But at the same time, some of the beats were so like insanely good. I feel like Pusha and Malice blended just like so amazingly. If I didn't know who this was that was making the album, I would have thought they probably were the same person. Pharrell did a good job as a producer. He also, I mean, there was a previous critique about the lack of parody, so that's a critique of his work in this album. He made and broke it in a certain way, but he also raised the floor so much by just making such amazing beats after beats, so many interesting, intriguing instrumentals and intriguing sounds with some amazing beat switches thrown in there. His features on some of the songs were kind of like iffy. Could have been better without him singing on them. But I mean, he still like he put this together and put really some great beats that for them to rap to, and they took advantage a lot of times. I think this is a bit of a adventurous album. I really enjoyed it. I've been stuck between trying to find out whether I think this album is a 9.25 or a 9.5. It's one of the two. It's either the strongest 9.25 ever or a weak 9.5. Because there are other hip hop albums I'd put like a 9.5 that I would have above this album. But I think after days of deliberation, I'm just going to give it a 9.25. If we'll call it a day. This album is so wonderful. I enjoyed listening to it, and I didn't like it as much my first time listening to it. It took so many listens to really love this album. But once it clicked, it really did. And I really understood the hype and connection that people had with this album, because it hits me too. It hits me as well. Man, were there some good tracks. Man, are there some amazing instrumentals and beats. Man, when they really want to, did they deliver one of the most heartfelt rap tracks in terms of lyrical content ever made. Seriously, it just makes me want to tear up just talking about it. So that'll be it. A bit on the shorter side, but I really just want to get this out the way and talk about something that I found a lot of enjoyment in listening to. Shout outs to Clipse. I hope they're here to stay. Pharrell, keep doing what you do. Keep rapping. And I'm excited to see what they do next. Will Malice continue and develop in his faithful journey? I don't know. We'll see. But it was really just a good album, and I had so much fun listening to it. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet, subscribe. Otherwise, have a good day. God bless. Goodbye. Bye bye.